We're catching up on time travel for episode 56 this week, and we're still in the middle of this string of Chan's Room episodes that took place monthly instead of weekly, which means we're having to hold a lot more context in mind as we kind of breeze through things at a really rapid pace. This episode takes place at the end of April 2020, which might be one of those moments you remember very vividly yourself, or maybe it's something you've tried to forget. But in this moment, the world was more or less staying home with the exception of essential workers. COVID-19 was well established as a global pandemic at this point, and most countries had restrictions in place. A lot of what we consider normal activities had ground to a halt, and it's not just stays who were staying home, but stray kids were staying put too, which for them was incredibly rare, and by now they were starting to feel it. Their District 9 Unlocked tour had been put on pause, along with plenty of other plans involving performing for live audiences, but they were still pressing ahead wherever they could with their schedules. And this month we're hitting a big milestone actually with the kids' second debut anniversary. They celebrated this by releasing their digital single, Mixtape on Track, which, while it's a song about a love triangle, actually really ties into this moment pretty well with that "one more step, I will never stop, I will always be on track" sentiment. It's a song that has a sad overall message, but somehow the vocals and melodies set a really comforting scene that's ultimately kind of inspirational. And this is the energy the kids are coming to stay with as they hit Korean radio waves and then host a special rooftop Vlive for their second anniversary. Mixtape on Track was the song they were promoting this month, but they opened this live with I Am You's piano version, which, if you haven't heard it before, is something you should definitely fix right away. The link to it is in our time travel playlist this week, but I'm adding it to the notes below too because it's that good, especially when you consider the state of mind most stays were in at this time. This was a really healing and heartfelt way that the boys led into what became a party, really, with this kind of comforting yet chaotic vibe only stray kids can roll up with. The truth is, the kids were really missing stays at this point. They had never been away from them for so long, and the reality was sinking in that they didn't know when they'd be together in real life again. In general, the K-pop industry, with its notoriously fickle fandoms, was being forced to pivot wildly to embrace the changing times. The intensity of that really can't be overstated either, because K-pop is a pillar of that Hallyu phenomenon that the Korean economy has come to rely on, so it's not just pressure for individual groups to maintain their fan bases through these global changes, but for the industry itself to keep fans engaged. That meant online content was seriously ramped up across the board in K-pop, and for our kids' part, it's really clear that their care and consideration for stays was at the center of those efforts. They introduced a new series this month called Skiz Life, where they were basically taking stay along with them in ways they hadn't before, spending time in the dance studio, encouraging stays to get moving and exercise with them, bringing stays along while they took pictures on the JYP building's rooftop garden and decorated Polaroids, and 3 Racha spent an iconic hour with stays explaining their creative process and spoiling songs, some of which still haven't even been released yet. The kids also filmed special video performances for Stay this month, which might not sound like much out of the ordinary for them, but their performance of voices here was especially touching for stays, many of whom were stuck in their heads at the time. It wasn't just a bit of entertainment the kids were offering, they were issuing a really beautiful reminder that they were there in real time, offering solidarity through their art, and a reminder to step out of the voices in our heads. And in true Stray Kids fashion, nothing could be more on brand for them to follow this up with a special performance of Boxer. I don't know if you're sensing a theme here, but the genuine care and emotional intelligence our kids were bringing to stays at this time could not have been more perfect. They all understand how important it is to allow space for our reality when it becomes difficult, but follow it up with unrelenting hope, optimism, and lightheartedness. Chan told us in episode 55, whoever laughs in a difficult situation wins, and it's really clear that this is what's guiding them through pandemic times too. A lot of stays were really struggling in these moments, and the kids were there for them in every way they could be. The number of lives that happened this month is staggering, meaning ultimately stays weren't on their own. They were tucked into our kids' daily lives. Even though Chan wasn't going live from his studio every week, he was still there for stays, even putting out a vlog with behind-the-scenes footage of him preparing for his My House Skiz Player performance. This was a really evolutionary time for everyone. The entire world was shifting to figure out what their new normal might look like, but no matter how much things change, some things always stay the same. Episode 56 is a really special one for a lot of reasons. It's one I come back to a lot, actually, and not just because it's full of really comforting and touching moments, but because it's a time capsule too. Stays weren't just missing Chan. Chan was missing Stay pretty fiercely too. It's so palpable in this episode how precious these shared moments are for him. I hope you enjoy rewatching it, knowing that safe haven Chan creates here is timeless. Even though it was all set in pandemic times, those heartfelt sentiments are meant to be eternal too. And that's it for our episode 56 time travel. I'll be back later to fill you in on all things episode 57 next time. I'll see you then.